Hey, I'm Vanessa, and I want to introduce you to 3 female French artists from the 19th century that helped in not just the progress of art, but of the cultural attitudes towards women in general. They basically said F it to the male-dominated art world and inserted themselves where no woman had been before. To put it simply, life in the 19th century France wasn't a walk in the park for women. Women were essentially owned by their husbands, denied educational opportunities, and were not permitted to leave their homes without a chaperone, lest they be mistaken for a prostitute. The general limitations of women's artistic training in France throughout most of the 19th century kept most women from pursuing art as a career. However, a few incredible ladies broke molds and paved the way for future female artists in the male-dominated art world. And they did so in their own unique ways. Unlike men, women who wanted to be a career artist were excluded from free training at the government-sponsored School of Arts. Because of this, women had to be either very rich or very lucky to get a decent artistic training. Some, such as Élisabeth Vigée-Le Brun, were born into artistic families and had access to home training. Others turned to private studios or academies for instruction, but all of these routes provided them with a greatly reduced curriculum at a much higher expense. Even in private studios, women were denied the opportunity to paint live nude models, which was the central focus of the French standard for fine art. Women, therefore, were not taught the skills necessary to produce works of art that were considered works of genius. Instead, they turned to landscapes, portraiture, or still life paintings to make a living. The Paris Salon, the biannual national art exhibition, were slow and selective to accept female artists. It was basically the most obnoxious boys' club ever. As were the cards stacked against female artists when it came to education, attitudes towards women were no better. Gender roles were extremely polarized in 19th century France. The job of a woman was to be a wife, a mother, and a housekeeper. Sound familiar? Lifelong career goals like becoming an artist were frowned upon, and as a woman, if you didn't have the support and encouragement from your family, and the sheer will to succeed, you were doomed. Despite being on a kind of house arrest, despite the strict gender roles, despite the limited access to artistic training, despite men and the general public thinking less of them, 3 female artists succeeded above and beyond expectation during this time. Despite everything that was working against them, Élisabeth Vigée-Le Brun, Rosa Bonheur, and Berthe Morisot lived and painted on their own terms.